Hi everybody and welcome back to EU Talent on TV. I am very happy to have three more great interviewees with me to chat to you today. So we're going to get straight into it. I have Gilles with me. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me. So you're working on the mission of adaptation to climate change.
Exactly.
And I'd love to learn a little bit about you. So please tell me about yourself.
So my name is Gilles Isuman. So I'm a doctoral researcher at the University of Luxembourg. So I'm in a field called economic geography and community initiatives, social innovation, and transition movement. So basically alternative economies, degrowth, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Much more cooler than that. Yeah. When we simplify it, but yeah.
It sounds cool. It sounds cool.
Yeah. So basically, I research on how communities are developing solutions to climate change, basically.
Brilliant. Okay, so then this really fits in with the mission. Really fits in what you do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Great. And so you were talking about working with the community, and I know you've founded a few organizations, things, but one of them is an NGO.
Yeah.
Cyclonics.
Yeah, Cyclonics in Ghana.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So 4 years ago, I was thinking about an initiative with some friends on how can we contribute, how can we encourage communities to do something for the territories and then facilitate the adaptation to climate change, if you can put it that way. So I'm originally from Ghana, and Ghana in those years, 2015, 16, 17, I mean, much more in the news about waste and how the environment was polluted and all that. And I was trying to think with some friends on how can we develop innovative solutions to that. So how do we put the communities at the center of the action? And we came up with Cyclonics. So Cyclonics is much more like a cycle of the planet and the cycle of the things that we use and how we clean. So the planet, and then clinics is like a clinic, how we can heal the planet.
Oh, so brilliant. Very smart. I like it. I like it.
How we can clean the planet.
Nice.
So basically doing beach cleanups and working with local producers to recycle things like electronics and things like that. So,
really?
But mainly it's about beach cleanups and how people are trained and to redo things and actually contribute to community and then environmental sustainability.
Great. That's amazing. Congrats for setting that up. Really,
yeah,
really
thanks.
Cool.
I mean, it's the team doing most of the work. I'm much more like...
And then also as well then, so you talk about the community a lot. How do you reach out to the community and also just other people as a researcher?
Yeah.
How do you find new ways to reach people and to make sure that your message or your the science that you're doing is getting across to them?
Yeah, basically, it's something I've personally struggled with because you realize that as a researcher, sometimes you speak to people and for you it's very obvious, but for them it's like, what nonsense is he talking about? So it's very important as researchers to get trained and acquire some skills that help us kind of I would say break down, but also explain in a very simple way the things that we are doing. And I'm happy actually with my university. We did a course called a program called Lux Exploration. So basically, it's on science communication with cartoons and visual art and illustrations. Simplify and share the work that we are doing with community. So you can basically, the one that I worked on was on greenwashing and with a hero that talks about what greenwashing is and how you can fight greenwashing. And it's a very interesting storyline. So basically, a child can read that and understand what is greenwashing, which is amazing. And so yeah, coming down to the level of the person reading and making it as simple as possible for people to feel that they're part of the story and they can do something about that.
Great. Sounds like a really cool way to explore how to communicate with the public. So awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you, Eva.
Yeah, and good luck with the rest of the day.
I'm enjoying the day, actually. So yeah, thanks to you.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So great. I'll have our next interviewee then. We have Jeanyu. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining me also. So your mission area is soil.
Yes.
Yes, great.
Yeah.
So could you tell me first, before we go into everything else, introduce yourself a bit. Let me know who you are.
Yeah, so my name is Junyu. I come from China. I did my bachelor in international relations and then my master in international development. So it's all relevant to the politics, public policy, this kind of stuff. And now I'm doing my PhD with University of Groningen. So basically my project is about how to govern or how to manage the sustainability transitions in the agriculture sector. So my angle is it's not quite technical, but it's more like from the macro level, how to really govern this process, how to bring the stakeholders and actors together to promote the sustainability.
Great, and that sort of bringing stakeholders together is so important with all aspects of science, of society. And so you're bringing more like a policy perspective, I suppose, to your group. How are you bringing that, to kind of to help your group with for its advantage?
Yeah, so basically my group is now working on a circular economic model, basically. Okay. So I think my task will be see how this model will fit with the EU visions on the circular economy or on the regenerative agriculture and also the recycling of food waste. Yes. So then how this model can help really deliver some policy targets as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, great. And how are you enjoying it so far, the Talenton? How are you enjoying working with lots of different people?
Yeah, I'm always loving working with technical persons because they're so brilliant. I think, and this is some like really the engineering background, the science background is something that I don't have. So I really respect their work, and I hope I can really bring some different perspectives to the team.
Oh well, I'm sure they're very happy to have you as well, and to have your new perspective, because as I said, I think it's very important.
Yeah, indeed.
And finally, what do you have a highlight of the time so far? Is there one point that has stood out as, wow, this was really cool of the EU Talenton experience?
Oh, I think it's highlight on the business, on the entrepreneurship. Yeah. It's not only research itself, but bring research to reality. Yeah, so great. I really like this point.
Great. Well, that's all of the questions I have for you. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, and good luck with the next day or so. Thanks. And my last interviewee is Jose. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you getting on?
Very well. Good. I'm enjoying that. Yeah, I'm enjoying a lot this competition.
Great, great. And your mission is cancer.
Cancer.
And so can you tell me a bit about your background?
Okay, so I'm Jose Carlos. I'm from Granada in the south of Spain, but I'm now doing my PhD in Madrid in the Spanish National Cancer Research Center. So I'm basically, a predoctoral student doing the PhD. I'm working with cancer stem cells. So basically all very molecular kind of work. And yeah, that's it.
Great. And I know that you like to maybe shine a light a little bit on mental health in academia.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a concern that I always have when talking with my lab mates and with people doing PhDs. We always tend to be so frustrated and so centered in our objectives that we don't pay really attention to mental health, and I think we should all have an eye on that and worry a little bit more about ourselves before our projects.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's also very, very important, and something that we can all try and think about.
Yeah, we can all relate to that, I guess.
Yeah, and also put an importance of it, I suppose, on when we're organizing these projects and organizing things like this, that also mental health of the participants and people involved is also very important.
Yeah, and for sure you can, I mean, the people that I know that has a worry about mental health and they do care about that, they work more happily and they do have more results and they do have another perspective when doing their job. So it can also be like a pragmatical way of enjoying your work.
Yeah, of course. And also then I want to focus a little bit more on your artistic background. You're very much involved in musical theatre.
Yes.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about just that hobby and what you do, and then also why you feel it's important to have these kind of hobbies that differ quite a lot from maybe scientific research.
Yes, well, I did musical theater like in a kind of professional way when I was younger.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow. So it's not even just a hobby,
Yeah,
it's
I
a
did.
profession.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did my thing in Madrid, like in very big theater. So it was very nice. But now what I do is like making music, like also in a professional way. Like I do compose, I make music, I play piano. So in such a way, I think it's not only like the creative part, because you tend to be more creative when you have like that open mind to create music or to do something artistic, but also the fact that you can work with people coming from very different backgrounds, you know, because at the end it's kind of like a little bit this competition, you know, because you are you have relation with people getting to ideas in a very different way with very different mindsets. So you learn a lot on how to, I don't know, have a team, and also on how to think differently.
Yes, yeah.
So that's very positive for science and for teams in general.
Yeah, great. And it's really nice that you can see the comparison of that kind of here as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and a bit about yourself. And it was lovely talking to you. And again, as I've said to everybody, best of luck.
Thank you so much. Let's see how this turns out.
Enjoy the next few days. Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's all from me for a little while. So I'll be back soon with some more interviews.
until 1 o'clock, because at 1 o'clock, Jacques Neves will be a speaker over here about the discovery of cancer drugs. At 2 o'clock, the pitch workshop in the lounge. And at 3 o'clock, you can go, you should already been there, the tour of the Johnson Johnson. I've also put the details in the group chat, okay?
Hi, and welcome back again at the interview session for the Telethon. Today I have three people I will interview, two of your other talents, but right now I have Noel de Miranda with me, and he has a very specific role today. So what will you be doing as a pitch master?
Yes, I'm very excited to be here at EU Talenton. And in particular, I'm very excited to later tonight host the public pitches from the teams that have been working on the different mission arenas during this week.
And so I understand that you are a part of Young Academia Europe.
Yeah.
How is that? What is that, and what do you do there? How does that work?
Yeah, so I'm part of Young Academy Europe, Young Academy Leiden as well. And I mean, essentially, what we're doing is representing the ambitions of young researchers. We're also very concerned about the sustainability of academia and of universities, and the revitalization of academia and universities will be done eventually by these bright young minds that we had here throughout the week. But for the sustainability of academia, it's also very important that we connect with society. And we connect with society by performing research on areas that are relevant for society, like the mission, like the arenas or the missions the teams have been working here during the week. And it's very important as well for scientists to be able to communicate their research.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm very much looking forward to the public pitches tonight, to see how they bring their ideas forward in a way that is understandable for society at large.
And you have had experience doing pitches, so is there maybe any tips or tricks that you can give these young new talents that are new at trying this?
Yeah, so I think the fundamental thing is to focus on the concept. Don't get lost with details. Define very well what the problem is. What's the strategy to address the problem, and what will deliver. It's a very interesting exercise to deconstruct the complexity of science back to the fundamentals, back to the ideas, and that's what it's all about regarding pitching to the general public.
Well, I'm looking forward to tonight. I think you are as well.
Yeah. So tonight at 8 o'clock at the Pest House in Leiden, we'll start the ceremony for the public pitches. So everyone is welcome to show up.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. And is there anyone else helping you out
Yeah,
tonight?
so Christiana Strava I will be hosting with her. She's a social anthropologist here at the University of Leiden and also a member of the Young Academy Leiden. So it'll be a nice show for everyone, I think.
Well, that sounds like fun. We'll see you tonight.
Yeah,
and thank
see you
you
later.
very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I would like to introduce Giovanni, who is one of the talents that is actually participating at the Mission Arena. So can you introduce yourself, Giovanni?
Yeah, sure. So I am a PhD student. I'm finishing my PhD in mathematics, but at the same time I'm also working in a company as a software developer, data scientist, and a bit of a Scrum Master role, managing my team.
That sounds very like many roles.
Yeah, that's what happens sometimes in a small company when you enter in one role and then suddenly, oh, we need a data scientist. Can you do it? You do mathematics. Yeah, okay, I can try. And it ended up going very well. And I was so blessed. I got a very amazing team, and basically being a Scrum Master became natural working together.
So you are in the arena, in the climate neutral and smart cities mission arena.
Correct.
What kind of talents do you have in your team?
We have quite interesting talents, mostly analytic.
Yeah.
So 2 or 3 people are focusing a lot on analytic solution, and analysis is going to be a big part of our solution. we focused on a problem where there is a lot of data collection, a lot of knowledge available, but not enough people who actually do something with that knowledge. It just gets wasted in gigabytes, and we want to do something about it.
That sounds really like a good idea. So I have one more question for you, because I found it very interesting. What do you do to relax from both your PhD and this company you are working at?
I train Korean sword fighting. I moved to Finland for my PhD, and since I started that, I also start training.
Yeah.
And little by little, I've also became a teacher, so I train and I teach.
Well, this is very impressive. So thank you very much, Giovanni. Lots of luck tonight as well. I would like to ask Clara to join me.
Okay. Hi. Hello.
Hello, Clara. Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Clara. I come from Croatia, and currently I'm doing a PhD at the University in Zagreb on sea turtles.
Sea turtles in Zagreb.
Yes.
Please tell me more.
Yeah, Zagreb is a bit landlocked, but we are collaborating with an aquarium in Pula, which get turtles that are sometimes injured or somehow end up incapacitated at the shores. And then we can come and sample them to discover what kind of microbes live on them and what it does to them and what's the diversity of microbes, which I'm very excited about because we discover a lot of new things on them. So they're like a biodiversity hotspot in the seas.
Very cool. And so to your mission arena of oceans and waters, what knowledge can you bring?
Well, I see myself as a microbe enthusiast, and I am always thinking about how to reduce pollution with microbes or use them in some kind of way. What can we learn from them to tackle the issues that we're having right now and maybe even in the future? So that's kind of what I'm focused on, and I'm a bit biased towards the microverse, which sometimes isn't a good thing.
But I assume your team has more skill sets and expertises?
Yes, we have a chemical engineer, a bit of synthetic biology, and some bioeconomy type of thing. So we clash a little bit in some ideas, but we've managed to find common ground.
That sounds good. Sounds like, you need a clash to come to new, bright ideas, I think.
Yes.
So we're looking forward to your pitch tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. And we will end these interviews, and we'll see you back soon.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back. I have 2 more interviews just before lunch, so we'll jump right in. First, I have Salome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great to have you here. So you're working on the Climate Neutral and Smart Cities mission.
Correct.
Great, great. And can you first give me a little bit of an introduction into yourself? Who are you?
My name is Salome Osei. I am from Ghana. I'm currently living in Spain. I am doing my PhD with the University of Day2-2. I am working on transportation, but using automated machine learning.
Okay, great. And following this, that you work in automated machine learning, I know that you're quite active in a group called Women in Machine Learning. Could you please tell me how you got into that, a little bit about it?
So in Ghana, artificial intelligence right now is not in the curriculum of the education system. And so a lot of us would have to go outside of the country to actually get this knowledge. Mm-hmm. But then there is Women in Machine Learning Global that are looking for women that are passionate in the area and then helping them with conferences, seminars, workshops. So myself and some 2 other friends of mine, we discussed that we wanted to encourage the women and the girls who are in Ghana, specifically, who want to enter into data science, machine learning, and then encourage them with some of these lectures. So we know that the system does not have a lot for those programs. Yeah. So what we do is that we organize these online sessions, conferences, webinars, and mentorships so that we find these aspects for them in Ghana.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow, great. It's so important.
Yeah.
And I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And for you, is there any reason why it's very important to you to do this work as well?
Yeah, because I didn't have the opportunity. I have to come all the way to Europe to get this opportunity. Although there was funding that was given to me by Google and Facebook through the AMI program, which is currently, it was running in Ghana at the time when I was there. Google and Facebook brought these aspects to us to teach us at the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences in Ghana. Mm-hmm. So right now they are running it in Senegal, I believe. Okay. So this is where I started my journey from and how I got the opportunity. So I also thought of an initiative to also bring this knowledge to other people.
I think that's absolutely brilliant. So a big well done.
Thank you.
It's awesome. And now I want to focus a little bit more on the mission. So, of course, climate neutral and smart cities. So what is the biggest challenge at the moment, do you think, to us eventually getting to a point where most or a lot of our cities are climate neutral?
Well, I would like to start from the context of a Ghanaian. Yeah. And in Ghana, our transport system is mostly private owned. Yeah. So there are a lot of cars in the system, and a lot of people would like to drive their own cars for comfortability. But I find that in Europe, there are buses and trains that has been initiated, which is a good idea. But there is still this car dependency problem in Europe. So in my group, we are trying to find the optimal ways of reducing these car dependencies here in Europe.
Brilliant. Great. Well, that's all my questions for you. Thank you so much for chatting with me, for sharing your experience. And I wish you the very best over the next day or so. Enjoy. And yes, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'd like to welcome my next interviewee, Fernando. So you guys can swap.
Thanks.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for joining.
Thanks you for having me here.
So your mission is adaptation to climate change.
Yes.
Yes, great. So can you first of all tell me a little bit about yourself?
About myself, hello, I'm Fernando. Well, I'm based in Granada, southern Spain, and I work at the University of Granada, specifically on landscape restoration, and more specifically, how to regrow forests. Okay. We have lost many of them.
I was about to say, a very important topic at the moment.
Yeah. We love forests as humanity. What else? Well, I would define myself as a green guy. You know, apart from researching all this, I also really enjoy to be in nature. Okay. Try to make my life more sustainable in general. So, it's pretty much about me.
Really great that you're working it personally as well, on a personal level.
Yeah, I try to
Yeah.
make it
It's hard,
as a
it's
whole.
tricky, but
Yes, yes, but it can be also funny, you know.
yeah,
When
yeah.
you take the bike every morning, it's funny.
Yeah, yeah. And focusing more first on your professional work, I know that you've been involved in a lot of maybe UN climate summits, so
Yes.
big events. How is it? What is that experience like?
Well, you define it very well. It's big.
big.
It's big in terms of course, the space and how many people gather for, you know, talk about how's the climate and what do we do in the future. But also it's very big in terms of expectations, you know. It's like in these 2 intense weeks, the future is being decided somehow.
Yeah.
So people are struggling to, you know, find the pathways out of climate disaster. So you can feel the tension, and from the climate activist side, it's like, wow, you feel the power inside you.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the negotiations between politicals and leader states are also very interesting, because there remains till the night negotiating and pressing one to another to come up with something concrete. So it's very interesting to live in person, you know.
Yeah, it must be so interesting to see these synergies happening and to see it actually
definitely
happening in front of you.
But what I miss the most is the community that you can create in there, because you feel very attached to the other, because all of us are trying to fix this.
Yeah, yeah.
So
and I suppose it's very similar to now, the kind of community feeling that you're probably having to
Definitely.
here.
We
Yeah.
have a common goal here.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then focus more on yourself, your personal life. What do you like to do for fun?
For fun.
For fun,
Okay.
to relax.
all right. Well, for fun, first of all, I like to liberate my tensions, you know. So I like to do some yoga.
Yeah.
Dancing also works very good.
Yes, yeah.
Of course, chilling with my friends. But I also like the creativity part of human beings. So I like to write, also drawing. I'm not very good at this, but I like to try.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, trying to make my life a bit of balance.
Balance, yeah.
Work, it's not everything, even if we have to work very hard in this, especially in this environment. Like.
Exactly. It is so important to bring in different aspects of culture and just ourselves and just to explore all parts of life.
Yeah. You can't help the world if you are overstressed.
Exactly. That's very, very true. Well, it was
yeah.
great talking to you. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your hobbies. And that's all from us for now. I think we'll take a break for lunch for a little bit. Go and enjoy your food, everybody. And we'll see you back here soon.
The world has never seen before. So that is essentially the task, right? We're hoping that you will come up with a solution that the world has never seen before. So we're setting the bar relatively high. So we need to apply this type of mindset, right, and this type of methodology to connect things that we usually haven't connected before, to look at deep research, to think harder and work harder than anyone has ever done before, to come up with some of these ideas. Are you creative? Yes? That's good. Is creativity, is that based on genetics or is it a skill? Skill. Genetics. Right, some might argue that a Mozart was particularly gifted in his ability to be creative on the piano and understand music, right? And you have athletes and you have musicians and artists that just are born with a unique ability. But for the most part, and for all the rest of us who are not born with that ability, it is a skill, right? It's a muscle, it's something you can train, you can practice, and you will get better at it. Once you start looking at yourself as a creative human being, and have some of that creative confidence to believe that you can actually have good ideas, and you start training it, and the more you do it, the more you will learn how to come up with ideas, and all of a sudden you will find yourselves being more and more creative. And every time you take a shower and every time you wake up in the morning, there'll be like new ideas popping into your heads and you'll be running out of paper trying to write them all down. How do you get your best ideas? Thinking. Bless you. Yeah, you have a lot of bad ideas? Very good. But how do you get your best ideas? Like, have you found that you have a specific practice that you use when you really need to solve a hard problem in your own life? Waiting for the next day. What is that? Talking about the idea to a lot of people and getting different input, or like a specific like brainstorming session works well for you? Yeah, just getting input, and that will sort of make you pop and give you a lot of ideas. Yeah, any other best practices? Improve on an existing idea? Okay, yeah? Any other best practices? What do when you have a hard problem to solve? Yeah? After running, yeah, so if you can get into a flow state, that might inspire your brain to come up with new ideas. Any other ways you come up with ideas? Yeah? Tell us more about that.
Now, when you do programming, you use a logic of a duck and you put it next to a desk, and then you're explaining the problem to the duck. And when you're explaining it, you may be like, oh wait, I know the solution.
That's called the rubber duck method? Yeah. Amazing, I've never heard that. So you put a little rubber ducky next to it, and then you try to explain it to the ducky, and then as you're formulating it, it suddenly hits you. Amazing. We need to get like 100 and something rubber duckies here for this again. Excellent. So there are many different ways. Nobody mentioned the shower. I think this is the first time in 12 years. Okay. It's always one of the first things. It's very inconvenient, right? Because you're in the shower, you have soap in your eyes, and you want to write it down, and then you get these like amazing ideas. But it's all about getting into this flow state, right? So some people when they're walking, some people when they're running, some people when you're just observing silently, some people when you're sleeping. What is the enemy number one to creative thinking, do you think? Lack of sleep, overthinking, yeah. What about these things, right? All these distractions. If you want to be more creative, spend less time on your devices, right? Allow yourself to just observe and reflect. That's why in this day and age, many of the best leaders in the top companies, they take a 10-day meditation retreat where they don't have eye contact with anyone. They don't speak to anyone. They don't read or write or listen to music. They just give their brain some downtime to reflect, and all of a sudden, like, the brain will be rejuvenated and able to work at full capacity. And we need your full capacity in the next 3.5 hours. So please put away, tablets and phones and laptops unless you're doing research, because we really cannot have any distractions in this process. Okay, so David Kelly, the founder of a design thinking consultancy called IDEO, and also one of the founders at the Stanford D School, the design school at Stanford, came up with this notion of design thinking. So he coined the term design thinking, and he has an excellent TED Talk where he talks about this concept of creative confidence. Did you see that? Anyone watch David Kelly? A few people, yeah. But about this important message that the school system today, in most places, break down our creative confidence. Right? So over the years, we are told that no, you're not very good at drawing, or you're not very good at playing music. So all of a sudden, we start not perceiving ourselves as creative human beings. I'm happy to see here that when I ask the questions, are you creative? You say, yes! Right? So we have some of that creative confidence. And creativity in this context is defined as your ability to solve problems, right? Not your ability as an artist or as a musician, but being able to connect the dots and come up with new ideas. So design thinking is familiar to most of you. The first step is have extreme amounts of empathy and really get into the mindset of your user, of your target audience, right? We need to understand the problem and we need to define it, right? To narrow the scope, and I know some of you are still in that process and it's perfectly fine and we'll help you out, but narrow it down so it's like a single problem that you want to solve. We need constraints in order to be effective when we start ideating. The human brain works better in a somewhat constrained environment. You can come up with a lot more ideas if we put up constraints compared to saying just like, come up with an amazing idea to save the planet. It's like, it's just too broad. So that's why we put these constraints on, because then when we dive into the green zone, which we are about to dive into now, we unleash all these creative ideas and we go wild and crazy, and it's about quantity over quality. And I know this is very hard for all the, where are all my engineers in the room? Right? Yeah. We are very good at killing ideas, right?
Thank you.
We love killing ideas and shooting them down and finding all the million reasons why this is not going to work. But I'm going to challenge you to, in the green zone here, at least for the first hour, hour and a half, we're just generating more ideas. You're not allowed to say, no, but this is going to be too expensive, or no, but these materials are never going to be able to work for this context. You are forced to say, yes, yes, and we can also do this and that, right? So you build on each other's crazy, stupid, bad ideas, and just generate more ideas. And the reason why we do that is because the bad idea can work as a catalyst for the brilliant idea. It's 100% unpredictable what is going to happen over the next 3.5 hours. But hopefully you and your team will get into this magical flow state where everyone is just coming up with ideas and you're building on each other's ideas, and you end up with concepts that you never thought would be possible to come up with. And you wouldn't be able to come up with those by yourself, but because some people are inspired by an element of this crazy idea that you allowed yourself to say, you start coming up with ideas that could actually work. So even elements of a really bad idea can inspire somebody else to come up with something brilliant, if that makes sense. So don't hold back. We want to hear all those crazy, stupid ideas. And don't worry, engineers. Later on, you will be able to apply some more logical, rational thinking to eliminate some of these terrible ideas. And we'll do that. We'll eliminate some of the worst ideas, and we'll start prototyping and selecting and testing and all that good stuff. So, are there any bad ideas? No. There are probably lots of bad ideas, right? But they can all work as a catalyst to the brilliant idea. And if you look throughout the history of innovation and entrepreneurship and startups and even science, this is not working. There we go. The sweet spot is often right there in between of what seems to be a really terrible idea, but what is actually a good idea. So if we're trying to come up with breakthrough innovations, they actually have to seem bad to most people when you're telling them about it. Like, if every time you talk to a new person, they're like, oh yeah, we should totally do that, then it's probably too obvious. It's probably not that cutting edge. Right? The cutting edge ideas are those that seem bad to a lot of people until they really get it. Those could be the best ideas. Right? If you look at something, for example, like an Airbnb, right? Was that a good idea to begin with? Like, what happened when those guys, they pitched some of the, like 40 of the top VCs in Silicon Valley with Airbnb, and they got 40 no's, right? Because every time it was like, oh yeah, and then when you're on vacation, you should have some strangers come stay in your bedroom, in your sheets, right? That seems like a really terrible idea. And when you're on vacation with your family, you can stay in somebody else's dirty house. Like, it just seems like a terrible idea, but it works, right? And today, what is the valuation of Airbnb, you think? A few billion? Yeah. 300 million? Right? Try 60 billion. Right? It's the largest real estate, or like the largest hotel or accommodation provider in the world, but they don't own any real estate. But they've managed to create a platform where it's infinitely easier and infinitely more scalable. We'll talk about business models later today. To add an extra room, right? What does Hilton have to do if they want to add an extra room? Build another building, right? Or at least add on to the existing buildings. But what does Airbnb do? They spent $10 on advertisement for homeowners in Chicago, and all of a sudden, boom, they have new listings, right? So it's infinitely more scalable, and that's what can create a lot of value. There we go. Good. So don't be discouraged if people don't get your idea right away. It might be because you're on the path to something brilliant, or it might be a really bad idea. But the point is, we need a lot of ideas to eventually have a good idea. So come up with a lot of good ideas first. So some people tend to criticize brainstorming, right? Who here like brainstorming? Some people really hate brainstorming. Some people really hate brainstorming, yeah. And one of the reasons is that this oftentimes tends to happen. Right? That you sit down in a group, and then 99% of the ideas is from one really loud, super annoying A-type person, right? Who thinks he or she is so brilliant, and everyone should just come aboard and listen to my ideas, because I am a genius. And the problem with this, apart from it being very frustrating, is that everyone get into what we call group thinking. Right? You get very easy when somebody else is talking, your mind can't just shut that out. You start thinking along the same patterns. And then we actually have ideas that are very similar and very narrow. So to prevent this from happening, we will start with what's called a silent brainstorm. So as you go down into the mission arenas here in a minute, And you're welcome already now, right? Some of you have your notepads out, if you have sticky notes and a pen, to just write down, empty your own head with ideas before you start getting distracted by other people's ideas. So this is very important. So the first step you do when you come back to your mission arenas, take 5 or 10 minutes, just silent brainstorming. Don't speak to your co-founders at all. First you need to make sure that you've nailed your problem statement and everyone's working on the same problem. Once you've gotten that and you're ready to start ideating, start with a silent brainstorm. And in 5 minutes, I've seen people come up, just individuals come up with over 30 ideas. Right? So each of you should come up with at least 15, 20 ideas before you start sharing. And then you take your best 10 ideas, and then we can start doing a group brainstorm. Ideally up on a window, like standing up, sharing these ideas one by one. And you're still building more. So as you're listening to other people's ideas, you have your block of sticky notes, and you can add to that. And then you just start creating this like massive mind map of ideas. Don't worry about sorting and selecting to begin with. The first hour is all about generating. We just want more and more ideas. So don't fall in love with one idea or get spiral down on just one concept. Force yourself to move on. Once one idea is described, you force yourself to move on. Let's explore other ideas. So we start having a whole landscape of different ideas. And as you're thinking about ideas, and you're welcome to have a block of stickies right now, because I'm going to go over a couple of different tech trends. And I would like you to consider, and these are not all equally applicable to all the different mission arenas, but just start thinking about, as we're now trying to generate solutions, what are some of the new exponential tech trends that might allow us to solve this type of problem in a way that was never possible before, right? So a friend of mine, Jeff Hoffman, who's one of the founders of Priceline.com, he has this technique he calls info sponging. So every morning before he opens up his email, before he reads the newspaper or anything like that, he will just like start writing down like random ideas, and as he starts reading the news or diving into different research articles and things like that, he will just like try to figure out what are different trends that are happening right now in society, in terms of regulatory policy, in terms of problems around the world, but also in terms of technological advancements. What can I do today that I couldn't do yesterday? Right? And there's a lot of these, as we talked about, a lot of exponential tech trends now that would enable us to come up with scalable solutions to some of the problems you're working on in ways where it wasn't possible 2 years or 5 years ago. And that's why bright young minds, future entrepreneurs can come up with these disruptive solutions that would be better than what existing multi-billion-dollar companies are doing today. So think about social, location, and mobile, right? Some of these overarching trends. We have social networks that are empowered by mobile phones and location-based technologies. We know where everyone is at all times. Something like the sharing economy. Right? Instead of you having to own your own device or own your own assets at home, many of those can be shared. Just like an Airbnb, but also why are we not sharing a lawnmower? We use it once a week. Why do we all need to have power tools at home? Like simple things like that. But it's just this overconsumption. If we had more of a sharing mentality, that could really have a massive impact. Artificial intelligence and machine learning, how can that be applied to understand data and to aggregate things in your specific mission arena? Advanced robotics have become a lot more intuitive and exponentially more affordable, right? It used to cost $500,000 for this type of Baxter robot, but now it's down to like 20K, right? Or probably even less today, right? So it's 23 times cheaper in just 5 years. So if we look at drone technology for observation in waters, or over lunch here we're talking about these illegal dump sites for garbage. Maybe we can have drones or satellite imagery, right, that we can recognize and we can scan things, and it just costs a fraction of what it used to cost for these types of technologies. 3D printing, we can print in all different types of materials. A friend of mine had his first part printed on the space station, right? It makes a lot of sense to print spare parts on the space station instead of sending them up. So today it's also a lot more affordable, a lot more effective than other types of manufacturing, at least in the beginning. Internet of Things, all our different devices are getting connected. We have added sensors. We can utilize that data in all kinds of intelligent ways. For example, with Thermostats, obviously, that you're probably all familiar with at this point, with Nest thermostats. But in many other ways in our lives, right? These smart meters, smart grid, safety, security, connected home, building automation. There's so many ways of utilizing sensor technology compared to IoT devices, certainly in terms of health and well-being. Quantified self is a big movement around these effective sensors for our bodies. Think about augmented reality and virtual reality. Augmented reality, where you just have your own mobile device and you can add an extra layer to what you're seeing, could be used to create a game where people understand the impact of trash in nature, or getting people motivated to actually do things like that. Virtual reality offers a bunch of different interesting opportunities, and we're just starting to see the very beginning of this, right? These technologies are definitely evolving at an exponential rate, and we're going to see so many more applications. Could very well be a technology that you can apply somehow. Yeah, we see Pokemon Go was one of the first really successful. Any Pokemon Go fans? Nobody wants to admit it. A few people. Good. Awesome. 5 Pokemon Go players. Yeah, I saw some great ones right around the corner down here. Okay, so gamification. Are we familiar with that concept? How many gamers do we have in the room? Fair amount of gamers. What is it that makes games fun to play?
Competition.
Competition. What else?
Rewards.
Rewards. Yeah, what else? Challenges.
Cooperation.
Cooperation. Collaboration. Yeah. Storytelling. And a fantasy. And a sense of progression too, right? If you are trying to recover from a disease and you're like today, or for example, a military veteran who lost his legs and now have to learn how to walk with a new prosthetic device, can seem pretty hopeless, right? If you're starting from scratch and today you can't walk, and 2 years from now you can walk. But if you break down that process into a number of missions or a number of steps, and you get to see that sense of progression, you get rewards along the way, it can be a lot more motivating. So gamification is now, of course, used in the game world, but it also works in the real world. So if you want to motivate change and incentivize people to change their behavior somehow, it'd be very, very powerful to add an element of gamification into whatever solution you're creating. Okay, so lots of different options for using new technology, and you're welcome to come up with your own. Right? So maybe at some point you say, okay, let's take a 10-minute break, and we all in our team just each of us find 5 different interesting trends that we'll bring back to the table. And then we go over those and we see if these tech trends could inspire us to come up with a new idea. So you're welcome to invent your own brainstorming techniques as well. So after the silent brainstorming, we dive into group brainstorming. And when we're brainstorming as a team, there are a couple of different rules that you will benefit from following. And they're listed over here. They're from this company, IDEO. The first one is don't judge. We talked about this, right? Like no idea is a bad idea. So don't shoot down each other's ideas. Force yourself to say yes, and we can also do this and that, right? We want to build more ideas. So encourage wild ideas, build on each other's ideas. Try to listen to one person at a time, and then you can add to that. You can write additional ideas and just find a place on the wall and create a huge map of ideas. Be visual. So not just about writing it out in text, it will give you a lot more perspective if you try to create a model. If you need cardboard or any other sort of prototyping materials, let us know, and we'll try to grab some from the makerspace downstairs, and then go for quantity. Yeah, it's actually a fun challenge for you to sketch out the idea and try to create a little story around how is this problem experiencing people, like how do people experience this problem today, and how could we solve it? But then instead of just writing down the idea, force yourself to sketch it out. Do we have any good artists in the room? Do we have any people who are really bad at drawing? Right, exactly. So that's how I felt a while back, but then I really started practicing, and I got incredibly good at sketching. This is one of my latest creations, and I'm proud of this one. So you see, anyone can learn to be a master artist here. Yeah, so, okay, so what will happen eventually, initially you can come up with all kinds of ideas, right? And you write them down and you have lots of ideas. Many of these ideas are going to be great. However, the first ideas that come to mind are the most obvious ideas. right? The ideas that all the other people around the world have also thought about. So you're gonna, at some point you're going to start having a dip and you're going to start struggling. It's like, oh, I cannot come up with any more good ideas. Are you going to give up? No, you will keep squeezing some of that creative juice out of your brains, right? So you can either just keep what you're doing and say, great, well, let's take another 20 minutes and come up with another 20 ideas. Just force yourself to keep going. Or you can apply a different type of brainstorming techniques. But the fact is that many of the best ideas actually come after the dip. So if you power through that low energy phase, go for a walk and then you come back to it, you will, I promise you will come up with more good ideas after that. So how can we do that? Well, you can use different types of brainstorming techniques. One of my personal favorites is one called reverse brainstorming. And the steps involved in reverse brainstorming are as follows. You look at your original problem statement and then you flip it. So say like, our problem statement is how can we prevent bullying in high schools here in the Netherlands? Okay? So that's our original problem statement. Now, we do the opposite. It's like, how can we increase the amount of evil bullying in high schools in the Netherlands? And then we try to come up with ideas for this new problem. So how would you do that? How would you increase it? What's that? Reward the bully. It was very fast. But yes, reward them, right? We want to gamify this so that at the end of each week, the teacher is pulling up the bully who made the most kids cry every week and they get an award, right? Yeah, exactly. What else can we do?
Gamify bullying.
Gamify bullying, yes?
Automate bullying.
Automate bullying, yeah. Good. And give them weapons and have a training academy. Yeah, exactly. So you come up with all these bad ideas, you keep them in a separate pile. Okay, this one you don't want to do silent, you want to do it brainstorming out loud. So as soon as you have an idea, you share it with your team so they can laugh at it and come up with even worse ideas. You write them down, so you have a pile of bad ideas. And then after 5 minutes, you switch and then you say, now we're going to go through all these bad ideas and we're going to try to see if we can flip them into a good idea that we haven't thought about before. Okay? So choose somebody in the team who's like the creative facilitator for this process, who will manage time and just like try to run some of these sessions with you. But it turns out this is really fun and it actually will prompt good ideas that you didn't think about before. So there's a number of these brainstorming techniques, and if you need more input, I'm happy to come around and I can run some more of these with you. But the creative process, we scope the problem, then we ideate, we generate tons of ideas, and not until the earliest, I would say 2:30, 2:45, you can start switching into sorting and selecting. So at least a solid hour of just generating ideas. More and more ideas, or we can also say 3 o'clock. And then after that time, you can switch on your mindset and say, okay, now we have 200 ideas up on the board. Let's try to cluster them into different overall topics. Let's try to see if there are some common topics. Maybe we can merge some of these ideas. Don't just merge every idea into one. It's not going to work, right? Remember, less is more. You are a scrappy little team. You can only do one thing really well for one group of customers. So less is more. But some of them might be able to merge or combine or in other ways, like figure it out. So you get an overview of all the ideas. And then ultimately, you need to pick one core concept that will turn into a brilliant new venture or science concept or collaboration or whatever it might be. Just to clarify, I know I talk a lot about startups and entrepreneurship, but of course the outcome here at the Talenton does not have to be in the form of a new startup venture. It can be take many different shapes and forms. So as long as it's impacting the greater mission that you are addressing, it's totally fine. It can take many different shapes and forms. Okay, so yeah, so here you can sort, select into different topics. There is another template for this you can use if you want. You can add different axes as well, but one of them that's important is value, right? And who defines value? The customer or the user that you have in mind, right? So from a user's perspective, how valuable would this solution be for that person? Would it dramatically impact their lives in a positive way, or would it be like, meh, sort of nice to have? And then level of uniqueness, right? This is one of the axes that the judges are going to look at. Like, does this stand out compared to existing concepts? So then you have these different quadrants, and you can use that just to map it out. It doesn't have to be the idea that's the most valuable and most unique, but you probably don't want to be over here with low value and low uniqueness. Okay, so the overall steps, and this is the last slide. Step number 1, revisit the problem statement. Make sure that everyone is aligned around that problem statement. How can we help X specific users solve X specific problem? Try to get it approved by your mission manager before moving on, ideally. Then you start with a silent brainstorming. Give yourselves 5 or 10 minutes. And then you can do group brainstorming, where each person brings his or her good ideas up, and you just plaster a wall, and each person you take turns explaining all the ideas that you have, and while the other people think about that and add new ideas to it. Reverse brainstorming is fun to try, and then you sort and select the best ideas. You can do rapid research, as I mentioned before. Maybe let's take 10 minutes and each of us find relevant trends or relevant historical data, or whatever other companies doing similar things. Also, when you've selected the top ideas, or the top one idea you want to work on, do some research and figure out, does this already exist? Right? And if it already exists, don't be discouraged. There are a lot of competitors, there are a lot of companies doing other things to try to mitigate these challenges out there. If there is a competitor, it means that there's a market, and there are other people doing it in some way or form. You just need to out-innovate what they're doing. Right? So we don't want to be doing the same. One of the criteria is that it has to stand out from existing solutions, but it's not necessarily a bad sign if somebody else is doing something similar. It means that they're able to do it, so there's a need, and there's a market that's already proven. And then you select your best idea and you start conceptualizing that. And once you get to this point, if you get to that point faster than what we've estimated before 5 o'clock, you let us know and we can start working on business models. But otherwise, just take your time going through the steps. Really important to spend a lot of time just generating ideas before we get into sorting and selecting. All right, my friends, that's what I have for you now. Any questions? Yes?
And we
How
are
can we come up with an
back
idea that the
just
world has
after
never
lunch.
seen
I hope you
before,
all had a
and
nice
also
lunch and are
not
now ready to
discouraged-
get back
discouraged
into
when we find
things.
out that that same idea
And
exists.
so am I. I'm here with 2 more interviewees, and we're going to start off with Johannes. Johannes, thank you for joining me here today.
Thanks for having me.
And so you are working on the mission of climate neutral and smart cities. Is correct?
Yes.
Yes, great. And could you please tell us a little bit more about you?
So I'm a PhD in applied physics. I'm looking into materials at the moment that they can change their volume when you apply potential.
Okay, great. And so then what made you choose this mission area then when you were applying?
So I'm in the smart cities path. So the thing is that climate change is like very important for everyone, but the biggest leverage you will have in the cities, because that's where most of the people live, where you have most of the consumption of materials, of energy, and all of this. So if you want to change something, it makes sense to change it there, I would say.
Yes, yeah, and maybe do you think it's important to include the local communities in this as well when you're working with smart cities?
The people that live in
Yes,
yeah,
live in
for
them.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work if people feel kind of left behind.
Exactly, I agree completely. And also then, so you said you have a PhD in applied physics. So how are you kind of bringing your knowledge to your group, and how is the group dynamics?
To my surprise, we ended up most likely with material science thing.
Okay.
Even though everyone else was a bit, also me in the beginning, we were very excited about plant-based solutions, but now we ended up somewhere completely different.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so it's quite fun.
Yeah.
And it was a big surprise.
Yeah, nice. And how have you enjoyed your first day as well? First 1.5 days now, I suppose.
It's very nice to think a bit outside of this academic bubble thing. So that's also why I signed up, that to have this different mindset, and also to have the interface between the society and the policy and the companies with the academia, which is where I usually only spend my time, right?
Yeah, okay, so it's nice to explore other areas a little bit.
Yeah.
Great. Well, that's all my questions for you. Thank you so much for taking a bit of time out of the busy schedule to come and talk to me. And good luck with the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next, I would like to welcome Michael. Hi, Michael.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me as well. So you are working actually on the adaptation to climate change mission.
Yeah.
Great. And first, before we go into this, can you give me a little bit about your background?
Okay. For me, I started my studies in plant science.
Okay.
And so, but for my PhD, I'm a third year PhD in Exeter University at the moment. So I'm switched to environmental geoscience. And so I'm combining my knowledge from plant science and the oceans in approaching problems related to the mission.
Yeah. And why did you make that change?
I decided to switch because of the skill opportunities there, as well as the climate-related solutions that I think that the data that we generate, the potential it has, and the effect, especially within what I work on, generates data useful in the IPCC reports and all of those things. So it feels exciting to be part of the big picture.
Yeah, exactly. And big changes that are happening.
Exactly.
Yeah, really cool.
Exactly.
And why then did you decide also to do the Talenton?
Well, for me, I found it as an opportunity to serve. I see the EU Talenton as an opportunity to serve communities around Europe, across the globe, to serve in a way that we are coming together to solve a solution that nobody can ignore. Whether you are rich, whether you are poor, you are feeling it. So it feels exciting to try to dig in to find something to at least advance humanity and all that.
Yeah, and also how is it to work with people from different areas?
It's been pretty interesting. Like for me, I have an environmental geoscience background. I have a physicist, civil engineer, and someone from a finance background.
Yes.
So, so it's really diverse, and so the kind of questions we ask to probe the kind of questions we ask to probe or validate an idea is different. And so you say something, but the next question from the other person makes you be like, okay, I didn't think about this. So this is it's not somewhere you should go to, right? With the idea. So it feels good to like work within a team and see how everybody adjusts to themselves and get out of their idea, their head to.
I've really noticed actually how it seems like a little bit, there's been a shift of kind of thought process today than yesterday, because I feel like everybody's a bit more settled, but a lot busier as well, in a way.
I think like
it's
the Agile methodology we are adopting, the Agile kind of approach, it's interesting such that I took a walk just away from my team for like 20-30 minutes to make a call based on what we are working on. Before I got back, we are somewhere else.
So it's go.
Yeah, it's like go. We see roadblock. Okay, no, we need to move this way. So it was happening so fast.
Wow,
Cool.
Well, that's all my questions. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. I love hearing about how people are experiencing the EU Talenton, and it's great to hear that.
And it's great being in Leiden, by the way.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it. We're very happy to have you guys here. So
thank you so much.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool.
Hey, so we'll take a bit of a small break before our next few interviews. Stay tuned.
what oncologists very often do is they ask you to walk up a staircase, and if you have problems with doing that, then they say, no toxic use. So they get, well, less effective treatment. Okay. Well, I introduce you here to two people. This is in Shanghai, as you may see. This is Yu Li and Xiaohan Qiong, who is a postdoc in the Netherlands. And at one point, so we are making exalucin, the Chinese drug, because it's not available here. I'll come back to that a bit later. But I got an email from an aunt of an 11-year-old boy with AML. And that boy had every treatment possible and was still on the tuberculosis back home. And she asked me, well, is there anything to treat this boy? I said, well, in principle, exalucin, but that's currently still in China, in India. But I can perhaps ask my Chinese colleagues to send some over. But I don't want to stand between the patient and the clinician. So let's first talk to them. So I talked to them as well, and they were not sure, well, no. And I said, well, you know what, let's talk to you. And so we had another team's meeting with and they still didn't know. And I said, well, you know what the problem is no one ever published the 5 years overall survival of AML patients like a boy had that have been treated and then they get exalucin. That is never been published. But it said if he can get access to the electronic files of the Shanghai Hematology Institute, then we can determine that. And so that was the reason that we got access to that information. And so I got it at one point, and then we sent it to the parents of the boy, but the boy died 4 days later. So anyway, this is the result. So this is based on the data from Shanghai. So what you see here is overall survival. This is time. The green line here is basically normal treatment that is basically a line that you will also find in the Netherlands. So 30% of AML patients are still alive after 5 years post-diagnosis. If you give CAC, so the A in CAC is exalucin, then you see the red line. And if you basically first have the patients, they are treated and the tumor comes back, and then you give them exalucin, you get the purple line. So in other words, there is I would say, urgent need to bring this drug. So how do you do that? Oh, this is the drug. But there is no patent position because the drug has been created. Okay? On the other hand, you can also argue, well, there's no risk because we know it works. So I've been talking to, you see them here. And these are the responses, and some of them are very interesting, like the clinicians. Because they say, well, no, this is good for the patient. They say, okay, make it fancy. We can make a paper out. But you see people that say, well, there's no risk. Basically meaning, how can I get most of my profit out? And then no patent is another point. I have argued, well, a patent, of course, protects you, but on the other hand, can also make it very cheap, and then no one's going to make certainly this kind of stuff. Well, this sums up my feelings. So the question is how to get such a drug. And so I've been talking to many people, and usually didn't work, but at one point I talked to Lotje Zuur, who will become professor here at Leiden coming Monday. And she told her husband, Erik Grimmelhuis, to help. And Erik found a lady who lived in the forest in Finland, who used to have a company, this making these particular drugs, but that company went bankrupt. But she still had the 2 strains, you can see them here, from the soil, that you need to make these compounds. that compounds, deze close were brought to Turku, and there put in this